Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Education is life-changing. It can change your trajectory in life. It can change your entire family's trajectory. We know that people with more education tend to have higher income and all the opportunities that having additional income brings. They also tend to have better health outcomes. Their children are healthier and their children are more likely to complete education. And education can also change the trajectory of an entire country. A higher educated, higher skilled workforce is necessary for the higher income generating industry and manufacturing, the production of goods, the services that bring wealth to a country. We absolutely want good quality, high paying, secure jobs for Australians, and we are committed to rebuilding the manufacturing services and supply chains onshore to rebuild this. And we therefore need Australians who are educated, skilled and qualified to take these jobs, and also to create these jobs, to develop new knowledge, new research, new skills, new businesses, new industries. Education is the key to opportunity. When my grandparents left poverty in Northern Ireland to seek a better life for their family, and when my parents left the UK to seek a better life for their family, for me and for my brother here in Australia, they knew that education was the key to accessing the opportunities of their new homes. I, like many in this place, I'm the first in my family to go to university, and it certainly changed my life. It gave me career opportunities that I would otherwise have not have had, and I was lucky that my family had a culture of valuing education. I was trained from kindergarten to expect that I would concentrate at school and achieve. I would finish high school, there was no question, and I would go to university. I was taught that this was the normal course of education, and I was taught that it was achievable for me. I was one of the lucky ones. But if we're going to change this country to the economic powerhouse, the advanced manufacturing hub, a leading scientific nation, to a country with world-leading health and other services that we know it can be and it needs to be in the future, we need to ensure education is available to all and that education is world-class. There are too many that get left behind, too many whose families don't see that education is achievable for them, that it is something that they do in their family. Too many that face the barriers that I didn't face, and we need them to be able to see that education is achievable for them as well. And that was why Minister Clare commissioned 3 reviews on education: early childhood, schooling and the tertiary sector, which resulted in the Australian Universities Accord. This Higher Education Support Amendment Bill is a response to the Australian Universities Accord interim report, priority recommendations, and we have a final report expected in December 2023. The Albanese Labor government is committed to opening the door of opportunity to more Australians to go to university. Whether you see university as an option for you shouldn't depend on your postcode or indeed your family background. We need to ensure that students who don't come from a university-educated family can thrive and succeed in tertiary education. This was identified in the recommendations of the interim report and addressed in the measures of the bill. Firstly, that we create more study hubs, not only in the regions but in our outer suburbs. And it's amazing how a simple thing such as travel, the unfamiliarity of a big city, parking, can form a barrier to someone feeling confident to enrol and attend a university. Secondly, that we scrap the 50% pass rule and require better reporting on how students are progressing. Thirdly, that we extend the demand-driven funding currently provided to Indigenous students from regional and remote areas to cover all Indigenous students. Next, that we provide funding certainty during the Accord process by extending the Higher Education Continuity Guarantee into 2024 and 2025, with funding arrangements that prioritise support for equity students. And that we work with states and territory governments to improve university governance. And importantly, the government has confirmed it will implement each of the interim recommendations. Recommendations 2 and 3 require legislative amendment, which this bill provides, by amending the HESA to extend the current demand-driven funding for regional and remote First Australian students to all First Nation Australian undergraduate students studying bachelor or bachelor honours level courses other than medicine from 2024. And secondly, remove the pass rate requirements for students to remain eligible for Commonwealth assistance and introduce new requirements on universities and other providers to support students in successfully completing their studies. Currently, students are required to pass at least 50% of the units they study. They undertake to continue their eligibility for Commonwealth assistance. The pass rate is assessed after they've completed 8 units in a bachelor degree or higher, or 4 units in a shorter course. And students who fail, more than half, currently lose eligibility for Commonwealth assistance. The pass rate requirements were originally introduced in January 2022 by the former Coalition Government as part of the Job Ready Graduates program to dissuade students from continuing in courses that they're not academically suited for. However, the practical effect of these measures has been overly punitive for students. Sometimes you have a bad year. Sometimes it doesn't all come together. Life outside university impacts your ability to focus, to study and to pass. The impact of the pass rate requirements has disproportionately affected students from First Nations communities of low socioeconomic status and other underrepresented and educationally disadvantaged cohorts. The sort of cohorts that we actually really want to be encouraging to see university as something that is for them and for their families, and we want them to know that they can achieve. For those already facing too many barriers, who might need to work extra jobs to fund their education, who might have family duties and issues that interfere with their studies, this should not be the barrier that means that they don't have the bright future that they can and deserve. More than 1,300 students at 27 universities have already been hit by this rule. Removal of the rule has been called for by universities right across the country. Universities like University of Adelaide in my hometown, Monash University, University of Technology Sydney, the University of the Sunshine Coast, University of New England, the Queensland University of Technology and Western Sydney University. This is something that they see the value of, they understand. We should be helping students succeed, not forcing them to quit. The bill introduces requirements on universities and other providers to have policies in place to help students successfully complete their studies. Under these policies, universities and other providers will be required to demonstrate how they will identify students who are struggling and how they will connect those students with support services to help them succeed. The Department of Education will issue a discussion paper to consult with universities and providers on the content of these policies, and they are expected to contain measures such as processes for identifying students who need help, assessing a student's academic and non-academic suitability for continuing study, particularly when they've triggered an alert, connecting students with support and identifying students who are not engaging with that support before their census date wherever possible, and providing sufficient non-academic supports for students, such as financial assistance, housing information and mental health supports. Because this is important because students struggle because of non-academic issues, because of the rest of their life interfering. They will be required to have appropriate crisis and critical harm response arrangements, providing access to trained academic development advisors who can help a student identify what's holding them back and come up with the right response for that student. It's not a one-size-fits-all, it's not a cookie cutter. Ensuring that academic and non-academic supports are age and culturally appropriate, including specific arrangements for First Nations students, and proactively offering special circumstances arrangements where a provider is aware of a significant life event for a student. Providing access to targeted individual literacy, numeracy and other academic supports, and providing provider-driven, evidence-based additional support, such as peer support, and the targeted in-course support from academic staff, such as check-ins and flexibility on assessment arrangements. Universities and other providers will be required to comply with their student support policies, and civil penalties will apply for compliance breaches. The existing demand-driven measure was, for Indigenous students was implemented in 2021 in response to the National, Regional, Rural and Remote Education Strategy. The proposal aims to increase First Nations enrolment numbers by expanding the eligibility of demand-driven funding to include metropolitan First Nations students studying bachelor and bachelor honours courses, except for medicine, at Table A universities. This measure directly supports efforts towards achieving Closing the Gap Outcome 6 to increase the proportion of Aboriginal Torres Strait Islander people aged 25 to 34 who have completed a tertiary qualification, Cert 3 and above, to 70% by 2031. This means there will be no cap on the number of First Nations students that can enrol in a Commonwealth-supported place, and Table A providers will receive Commonwealth funding for all Indigenous students under Part 2.2 of HESA. The Department of Education estimates this may double the number of Indigenous students at university within a decade. The measure has strong support in the sector. For example, Universities Australia, ANU, UQ, Western Sydney University, Macquarie, James Cook University, University of Southern Queensland, University of Melbourne, Adelaide, Queensland University of Technology and the University of Technology Sydney. The measure builds on the government's election commitment to deliver up to 20,000 Commonwealth-supported places and fee-free TAFE. Deputy Speaker, this bill, in response to the interim report of the Australian Universities Accord, is the first step to building a brighter future for all Australians and for our country. Education is the key to better outcomes. Education changes lives and changes futures. The link between education and employment, education and better paid jobs, the link between income and health outcomes for individuals and for their family is well established. Being able to financially support your children and family because you have a well-paid, secure job means better outcomes for your children. Children brought up in poverty are more likely to experience poverty as adults. My electorate of Boothby is home to a number of excellent tertiary institutions, as well as many, many tertiary students and tertiary sector workers. Flinders University in Bedford Park is one of 3 major universities in South Australia. Its innovative approach to modern manufacturing has seen it establishing itself within the Factory of the Future in the Tonsley Innovation Precinct, working into supply chains for the defence industry, with many of the local innovative industries that have set up in that precinct. It's also a major medical school with campuses across regional South Australia and the Northern Territory, and an excellent record of graduating First Nations doctors and other health professionals. We also have the Waite campus of University of Adelaide in Urbray, which focuses on agriculture and ag science, of course South Australia's excellent wine industry. The research this campus undertakes will be vital for our important agriculture industries as climate change changes the conditions that they're dealing with. And then we have TAFE at Tonsley, which is developing the tradies for the